Hello, I'm Robert, and tonight I'm just going to tell you a bit of a story. Don't know, really may have some effect on you. I'll just start. So now I want to take you for a walk into the woods, somewhere in England, old France, or Russia, or anywhere in old Europe, Poland, even old America. Somewhere the weather is just right. We're only going to need a light jumper, our jeans, and good walking shoes or boots. We enter the forest. This forest is still basically in the natural state. The richness, the smells, the hidden animals, the undercurrent sounds, the leaves rustling, the hoots and squawks or growls and chirps you hear. All depends what woods or forest you are in, what part of the world. There are no signs or tracks, no rubbish of any kind, only you, several friends, and the natural forest. All were like-minded and took no phones or cameras, nothing electronic at all. They left them all at home. Only a cane basket with some sandwiches, some water and a thermos of hot tea, a blanket sitting on top. You all drift through the forest, taking turns to carry the basket, but also stray away, roaming sometimes apart from each other, losing sight of one another. So you would give a shout or a yelp to let your group know all is okay. Your small group would come in eyesight of each other most of the time in any case. After being amused in the forest now for about an hour, you're feeling sort of clean and calmer and free. You look into the distance. Something in the forest seems different ahead. You point it out to the others. All went to check it out. The closer you got, more rays of sunlight are lighting up the forest where you're headed. You walk a little bit faster, and the rest, the ones now carrying the cane basket, is coming last. You arrive first. It's a clearing. You stop at an old brick chimney poking out straight up in the air. It's about 150 feet from where you stand. Oh my goodness, must be an old cottage. Was once here. In your excitement you turn, yell to your group, standing still until they all catch up. They all stare at the chimney, mumbling amongst themselves. Someone actually lived here. A little mesmerised by the now long ago abandoned dwelling. A home for some reason, a home. For some reason, your small group walks slower now, all towards the chimney. Some green moss is on the ground. You bend down, then notice the stones, flat sort of stones. Must be a pathway that's now covered in moss. A small green undergrowth of different colours. You can just make out its way, this path, as it meanders towards where the home once stood. It diverts around two large majestic trees. A circle of stones just above the ground height. A low bush has made its home in the middle of what was probably an abandoned well, or just maybe it's a circle of stones for decoration of a small flower bed. None in the group are really that knowledgeable on such matters of old things. Now close to the chimney, they can make out the size of the home, the stone floor, still mostly intact, but all covered in some type of ground cover and moss, similar to the pathway. The chimney is being coiled by several thick vines wrapping around it right to the top. A steel bar goes across one side to the other of the half. It's rusty and worn in the middle, where cooking pots would have been hanging from. This was the only piece of steel to be seen. You pull a knife from the leather sheath on your belt, bang the bar with the back of the blade of your heavy knife. Bing! It gives out a sound of being solid, still held strong in the mortar and brickwork. The noise causes a small critter of some sort to dart out of the green growth-filled fireplace. It scurries into the forest. Okay, we will all sit here and eat lunch. The blanket from the picnic basket is spread out. The food and cups of tea are poured. Not much talk. Everyone was wandering in their own imagination of who lived here, how they lived, how long ago. One of the group stood up, started walking over to the area that looked a little bit different to the surrounding forest, still carrying a cup of tea. Only a little way in, she seen what aroused her curiosity, an orchard. Her pace quickened, getting to the first row of trees, which were pear and bearing fruit. This orchard was about 120 feet by 120 feet. She walked in further. Yellow grass was knee-high. Apples, so many red apples. Picking one of them, running back to the group in front of them, she bit into the crunchy, red, juicy apple. The juice sprayed from the sides of her mouth. What the hell? Where did you get that? An orchard. An old abandoned, turned wild orchard. It's enchanting. Come, I'll show yous. Bring the basket. We'll pick some in minutes. They were all smiling, chomping on the finest, cleanest fruit, juice dripping down their chins. Within an hour or so, they were all out of the woods. Finished their picnic. Had the best fruit they ever tasted. But the day was getting a little bit later now. So they were back to the car where it was parked. In an hour or more or so, they were out of the woods, back in the car. Several hours later, back into the city. All right, now what I'm trying to say is Mother Nature, in her tender way, is reclaiming her kingdom, forgiving the intrusion. For this intrusion into her kingdom was done with care. It was sustainable. The occupants left for some reason. Mother Nature, without any upset or anger, returns gently, reoccupying that area. Man would have taken the timbers from the old cottage, or it may have just fallen down and people come and took it for firewood. Or if it was any good, they'd use it for building materials again. What was left though, the chimney, Mother worked with. The chimney she used for the thick vine to climb on, getting sun and height. The hearth, a critter lived in there. The fruit trees, although planted by man, she left them there. They continued to grow, never needing modern toxic fertilisers. The apple had dropped off, rotting on the ground, giving the nutrients the soil needs. The small group of people that visited the abandoned small homestead missed the vegetable patch. It had been taken back by nature, by Mother Nature. No pumpkins, potatoes or vegetables were there, but only low bushes and saplings. Now this style of living was working with Mother Nature. There would have also been other small and medium-sized farms like this, not so far from one another. Each farm had different food, some livestock, some mainly potatoes, all varied. This gave a broad variety of produce. Some may have had pumpkins, some apples and so on. It gave people of the area a form of self-reliance. A peasant, which means really that they made only enough food for themselves and their family. A little bigger farms, they would take their produce to the market in a nearby village, bartering, swapping your apples for someone's potatoes. It was not something rare or odd. It was done automatically as a matter of common sense. But this also had a great hidden advantage because all farmers and families with their small to medium plots of land farmed in various styles and produce. So when something went wrong, be it a disease or a vegetable, fruit or the livestock, would only affect some, but the others still had plenty. So not a whole village or city would starve or be dependent on one corporation or central control of one government. This made disasters easier to overcome. But then what happened? The revolution came, the Industrial Revolution. People were needed in the big cities or the mines or the knitting mills, coal mines, tin mines, the steel mills, etc. When some left, it made it more difficult for others. The swapping, bartering was less because of less people. Now the wealthy landowners started to get organised. As time marched on, where 180 small farms once worked with Mother Nature, there was no waste, no chemicals. This changed now. Monoculture moved in. This is where only one food is produced year after year. It could be corn, soybeans, palm oil, wheat, whatever. Those small enchanting homesteads were bulldozed. The 180 farmers of great variety and knowledge are gone. So now the people rely on one corporation for their grain, the potatoes, the corn, or whatever they monoculture on that land. More and more of this goes on year after year. The government, the politicians, bow to the multinational corporations like a peasant to a king, allowing all a manner of toxic chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, genetically engineered food, seeds, to go full steam ahead. Huge amounts of money are made by the very, very few, while the masses eat Frankenstein food, less nutritious, no heart or soul whatsoever. The historic way, the natural way of growing food, that way, of course, that mimics Mother Nature. She showed us the very way to grow food, as the soil would be replenished continually by what the remnants is left from the fallen vine, leaves or branches or fruit. Soil would be let to rest, allowing the good bacteria, the worms, microorganisms, the bugs to return in force, replenishing the soil, giving it its natural strength and structure. As the worm, for example, creates aeration, its waste, its castings is ready-made food for the plant that is grown. Mother Nature put right in our face the example, the very way to grow our food. Did we imitate her private lessons? She so willingly gave us in the past? We did. Even today, the moral thinker does their best to grow food the way nature does. But powerful forces now push to grow food with one outcome in mind, and one outcome only. That is to make money. Every other concern is of absolutely no concern at all. Make money, make money. Their motto is make as much food as possible, as cheap as possible, and sell it for as much as possible. Does it kill the very pure magic of the living soil? Yes. Does it poison the waterways with runoff of toxic chemicals? Yes. Does a huge quantity of pesticides being sprayed kill the natural pollinators, those butterflies, those bees? Yes. Do these gigantic agricultural companies purchase farms or land in shady deals, or even straight out steal land from local Indigenous people? All made possible by the bent politicians? Yes. Okay, let's go back now to the young group of friends who visited that old ruin of a farm. It's about 10 years later now. They were all in their 20s. Now they're all in their mid-30s, all married with young children. They had been reminiscing about the day many years ago while having a dinner party, remembering the wild orchard of the pears and the apple trees, the old brick chimney and the cooking hearth. One of the young women, after sipping her glass of wine, said, "Let's go back. We can take the kids." Another spoke up, "I'd love to give the kids an apple to eat from the orchard." The three couples, now all grown up, parents clicked glasses. "All right, it's Sunday tomorrow." A father looked at his smartwatch. "Yeah, the weather is going to be great." "It's a deal then. We go tomorrow." The host of the dinner party, the wife, got up, coming back in a few minutes with an old pink jumper, a big flower pattern in the middle. "I'm going to wear this. I wore it all those years ago." The other two girls said, "Yes, I remember it," both suggesting they searched their wardrobes for some clothing they may still have, which they wore on that day. One of the men said, "Trying to recapture our silly youth, are we?" Another said, "I'm still young, I'm only 36. "You still got that leather jacket?" a lady says to her husband. "I'm not wearing that, it's going to be hot tomorrow." "You got to," the rest said. "It'll be fun." 7:30 in the morning, the three cars all meet up as planned at the edge of town. Years ago, all were in only one car, but now with the kids, the car for each family was needed. There was no talk of leaving the electronic devices at home like a decade ago. They left the mobile phones at home then, remember? Now all had smartphones, smart watches, smart cars, all connected to a smart house. But it was not even thought of to even consider leaving any of these high-tech devices behind. So all communicated and high-teched up, off they drove in search of the old ruin. An hour and a half up the freeway where they were turning off, there was a bit of a hold-up, some big earth-moving machinery on tracks, some police vehicles and a couple of dozen people in their 20s holding signs up, some sort of protest signs. The police, though, waved the three cars through to the turn-off, so now onto the smaller road that would take them to where they parked all those years ago. What were those troublemakers doing, those protesters? They asked each other, speaking back and forth on their phones. Who knows? Doesn't matter. All good, we're through. I think we should be there in about 20 minutes. The lead car communicated to the other two cars. This time, each couple brought their own picnic basket stuffed full, the kids as well. The children were in the back seats, aged between 5 and 7. One couple had one child, the other two couples had 2 children each. All 5 were playing with iPads as the countryside whizzed past them. The brake lights lit up on the front car, slowed, turning into the clearing, the exact same spot of the day trip long ago. Only now it had become laid with asphalt, apparently a rest area for weary travellers. A rubbish bin overflowed with public concrete table and benches was there. The graffiti scratched and painted into the table. One bench was broken in the middle, the centre touching the ground. This area used to be just dirt and surrounded by trees. In any case, all were out now. The children screwed their faces up, saying, "This is not a very nice picnic place." Her mum bent down. "Oh no, this is not the place. We're only parking our cars here." "All right, let's go," one of the fathers yelled out. Off they walked into in their op-shop-looking attire. The walking track was much the same, less trees about, with litter here and there. It had a slight rise to the track. They had to get to the top of this rise, then it would go down again in the woods where they would find the old farmstead. The parents kept talking to the kids, building up the enchanting place they're going to have their picnic at. Not one of the parents commented on the empty drink bottles and cans, the faded cardboard hot chip cups, etc. This was a special fun day. Ignore any negative stuff. As they reached the top of the rise, the mother held one of her smallest children up so she'd point to where the old place would be in the distant woods, telling her little girl not much further to go. As she herself now looked out, putting her hand above her eyes shielding the sun, the mother took a stammer in her breath, in her voice, as she was about to speak, for what was now in her vision hit her hard. The woodland forest was gone. Those noises of birds and rustling leaves was gone. The rest now had reached the top of the rise to look out. None could speak. The muffled roar from bulldozers and tractors, all the manner of earth-moving machinery moved about. Dust rose up over at least 1,000 acres. One of the men had on his latest smartphone a long vision app. He held it up, looking intensely at the screen, scanning if he could see the old house was still there. He could actually see several old ruined farmhouses. Then he noticed the one they visited as 20-something-year-olds. The high, crooked brick chimney. Look, the others came, trying to see the smartphone screen. Yes, that's it, yelped the wives. A big truck pulled up next to the house as the backhoe followed on its steel tracks. One bang of the huge bucket and down came the chimney. The bucket then scooped up the bricks from the chimney and the floor that they sat on when they had the picnic. In 10 minutes, the whole place was now all in the back of a tip truck. This big truck drove off towards the next old ruin. The backhoe followed on its tracks slowly. The adults stunned into a complicated silence of a strange loss. It was the woodland gone, the old ruin destroyed, the nostalgic day from them. The nostalgic day stolen from them. The children started complaining they're hungry and wanted to go home. In a robotic manner, all the parents just agreed with the children, walking back to the cars, crestfallen from the anticlimax. Their fun day evaporated. The drive home is quiet. The only noise comes from the children's iPads, the pings and funny voices from the games they are playing as they came to the freeway entrance. The same hold-up was there. Some protesters are being arrested, thrown into vans. The police chucked the protesters' signs away from the road. They're all like around in their 20s, these young protesters. They chucked the signs into the grass on the side of the freeway. What the bloody hell these bloody protesters protesting about anyway, the husband complains. We're going to be sitting here for ages in the car. His wife says, just be thankful, dear, we got the police arresting these people. Otherwise, we would have complete anarchy. These protesters would destroy everything.